Welcome to Viewing and Reviewing, where I pull older movies off the shelf, watch them, and let you know if I believe they're worth your time to watch or not. I'm Bobby T, your online video store clerk, and I'll be searching through my VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray collection to find titles that I think may be interesting to review. In today's episode, I'll be reviewing 1975's 3 Days of the Condor, directed by Sidney Pollack and starring Robert Redford, Faye Dunaway, Cliff Robertson, and Max von Sydow. Let me read you the DVD cover. In Sidney Pollack's critically acclaimed suspense thriller, Robert Redford stars as CIA agent Joe Turner, codename Condor. When his entire office is massacred, Turner goes on the run from his enemies and his so-called allies. After reporting the murders to his superiors, the organization wants to bring Condor in, but somebody's trying to take him out. In his frantic hunt for answers and in a desperate run for his life, Turner abducts photographer Kathy Hale, played by Faye Dunaway, eventually seducing her into helping him. Every twist leads Condor to the end of his nerves and will take you to the edge of your seat. With nowhere to turn and no one to trust, Turner realizes his most dangerous enemy may be closer than he ever feared. And as he zeroes in on the truth, he discovers there are some secrets people would kill to keep. Now, this is a fascinating film from a technological standpoint. I remember seeing this sometime in the late 70s on network television and being mesmerized by the computer technology, the spies, guns, and intrigue. This film is more thriller than action though, so go in knowing it moves slower than movies of the era like Bullet or Dirty Harry. Watching Redford play a CIA reader that deciphers potential spy codes buried in literature printed in any number of international languages, then, while literally out to lunch one day, comes back to discover his entire unit was gunned down in the opening of the film, throwing his life into chaos as he never knows who could be trusted since he's never met anyone outside his office. Now, his slow burn realization of the danger he's in is part of the twists that make this film so much fun to watch. Sometimes when we see fully trained assassins that aren't quite sure of their surroundings, like the excellent Bourne Identity series, it makes it a little harder to relate to the main character when all he needs is a gun and an attitude and he can take down an entire Navy SEAL team all by himself. In this film though, Redford plays a normal guy with little to no combat training who just happens to read thousands of books and is smarter than the average bear. He just outthinks everyone while trying to figure out why this is happening to him. But he isn't intimidating or a master spy, which makes him even harder to kill by the bad guys who seem to be absolutely everywhere. Max von Sydow, God rest his soul, was an excellent foreign hitman in this film. He reminds me a little bit of Samuel L. Jackson's character in The Hitman's Bodyguard, who's come to terms with the fact he's destined for hell with all the death and mayhem he's caused, but he knows a conspiracy when he sees one, and he finds a nobler cause in trying to decide if Redford is truly a spy worth killing or something completely different. Watching their cat and mouse game and ultimately Redford's uncanny knack for thinking his way out of a jam while half the CIA is out to kill him is part of the excitement. Now, this is one of the quieter, more intriguing chase films you'll ever see without the car crashes or the bomb explosions. I will say that the DVD cover plays up the kidnapping, quasi-seduction, and enlistment as his accomplice of Faye Dunaway nearly halfway through the film as something sexy and exciting. But that entire sequence seemed a little bit out there. Especially the seduction part seemed completely unnecessary for this film. Had they edited out that part completely, the film wouldn't miss anything. I'm sure in 1975 having two of Hollywood's most beautiful people in naked embrace was cause for celebration. Today, it just feels like exploitation. I wasn't expecting to see a full-blown Stockholm Syndrome in this otherwise great film. Everything else was terrific though. And seeing giant whirligig computer spools spitting out dot matrix printouts deciphering spy code was a nostalgic feel-good that never gets old, even though that technology is very old-fashioned by today's standards. Call me old school, but that is fine. So, my overall report card of the film, it looks like this. Does it stand the test of time? I'd give it a B. If you remove the antiquated technology, pre-disco turtlenecks and hairstyles, Detroit-made Cadillacs that held 20 people, and telephones that still use rotary dials, then yes, this film stands the test of time. Just kidding. Yeah, the film is dated, just like one of my previous reviews of Clute was dated, but the story is surprisingly updated and worth watching. The story. I'd give it a B+. Here's one sentence, and you tell me if it's got a good plot line. Genius CIA codebreaker goes on the lam as assassins who killed his entire office chase him all over New York City as our hero uses clever plot devices he read in books to turn the tables on them to find out who is really behind a covert and unauthorized CIA operation running inside the CIA itself. Sounds a lot like one of the Mission Impossible movies, doesn't it? Anyway, the cast. I'll give it an A-. In this era, Redford and Dunaway were box office gold, and they did their jobs admirably and had good chemistry. I have never been a Cliff Robertson fan, but he plays the good cop, bad cop fairly well in this film. Max von Sydow is an underrated gem in most films that I always love seeing him anytime. You'll recognize several more faces from TV in the mid-70s that are average, but not much else. The cinematography. Well, you know, it's New York City in all its mid-70s gritty glory. I'll give it an A-. This is one of those technology grades. Sometimes we have to cut a little slack for films that are pre-digital age where computers can make films more sanitized. Personally, I like these older films where you see garbage blowing in the wind and 60s Buick Skylarks spewing unmuffled black smog into the atmosphere before our eyes. It makes the characters feel a little more grounded in the story. The music. Well, like most films from this era, the soundtrack is anything but inspiring. I will give it a C+, not as a negative grade, but it's just that it's barely above average, although 0 to write home about. If you want to listen to better music from 1975, buy the Greatest Hits CD and not this soundtrack. So, based on the above scores, I'm going to give this film a solid B score. My personal grade would be a bit higher, but I have to acknowledge not everyone out there seeing this film for the first time will be excited about it as I am. I watched with someone who had never seen it before, and their reaction was more lukewarm than mine. And they also said the unnecessary seduction scene I spoke about earlier in the middle of the film felt more icky today than it probably did in '75. I'll also say this isn't the fastest moving film, so as long as you appreciate slow boil thriller films of the era like Clute and All the President's Men, you'll probably enjoy this film more than most. I still think it's a gem, even if it is dated. So, here are a few other films, thriller films, from the era similar to 3 Days of the Condor. Marathon Man is a film where Dustin Hoffman is a college student in New York who after finding his older brother murdered, surprisingly finds himself being chased by secret government agents trying to track down smuggled diamonds supposedly owned by a Nazi war criminal. If dentists terrorize you in your dreams, though, I will say you may not want to venture a viewing of this film. Second, Serpico has Al Pacino playing a real-life New York undercover cop who uncovers a group of dirty cops who demand Serpico either joins them in their illegal activity or they'll make sure he never tells anyone about any of it. When he turns evidence against the corruption, his life is threatened and he has to decide if he moves forward with the accusations or if they get him first in this true story. And lastly, The Parallax View is about an ambitious reporter who digs into a political assassination by a shadowy international corporation who is behind multiple killings worldwide, only to have those assassins turn their sights on him. Well, that's it for 3 Days of the Condor. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click the like button below. If you want to keep up to date on my future reviews, please click on the subscribe button below. If you want to purchase 3 Days of the Condor on Blu-ray, this is DVD, but on the Blu-ray, or if you wish to purchase any of the other titles I've mentioned earlier, please follow the Amazon links below. If you have any suggestions for movies you'd like me to review, please leave a comment below, and I'll see what I can do. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, be sure to help others in need, because it's always the right thing to do. Have a great week.